Boker or Masechet Kiddushin Daf Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph 33a1. We were just speaking about the entire concept of Neseva Takum v'Darta B'nei Zaken, and we said in the Gemara that the fact that the Torah did not say Neseva Takum v'Darta, and then Takum v'Darta B'nei Zaken, so we didn't write it. So therefore, it's all one entity. Seva and Zaken Zebidiu Kotodovar, which is Zaken Bashanim, which is a Chacham, and that's like the words of the Tanakama. Amar Mor says Yachol Yadrenu b'Mamon. I would have thought to say that you do Hidur only b'Mamon. Tamulomar comes teach you takum v'adarta makima. When you get up, you don't lose money. Shem b'chisron kis. Af hidur, so too when you're doing hidur, also there's no chisron kis. So the hidur is also not chisron kis, which means you're doing a little hidur. You're getting up a little bit, right, to show that you're standing up for them. That's called hidur. The kima let b'chisron kis. So ask the Gemara what kima does not have chisron kis. Milo askin and the kanaki marganita. We're not talking about the mitzvah to actually get up, even when a person is coming and doing jewels and diamonds and all these things. Yeah, at the end of the day, when you're going to get up, you're being mivatel from your work. So therefore, it is chesron kis. Ela akish, but rather it says the Gemara, there's a hekesh kima lehidur. Ma hidur shembo bitul, just like hidur, there's no bitul melacha, because the lashon of hidur was not kavod mamon or devarim. It was just like it was not a maaseh that has a bitul of melacha. So to kima shemba bitul. Right, that is nazim. So therefore, you come from here that you're not obligated to be mivatel your melacha in order to get up from a zaken. Which means if you're in the middle of a work, you don't have to come start running to go up. No. You can continue your job. You don't have to go proactively, and look for it in order to do that. We also make a hekesh of the hidur to the kima, just like the kima emba chesron kis. So to hidur also emba chesron kis. Milkan amru, from here we said. If right now we just said that you're not allowed to come and do this, so it comes out that they don't have a chovah, right, to get up even in front of Talmidei Chachamim when they are doing their melacha. Right now, okay, there's a whole question here. What does that mean? Eno rashai? Does it mean that they're eno chayav? Does it mean that it's a sur? There's a whole question about that, right? But the concept though is that since right now they are coming and they're doing their work, if they're going to stop and now stand up, so therefore, they're doing bitul melacha. Now they're stealing their employers. So therefore, it's going to become a problem. Velo, says the Gemara, what? They don't have to stand up for Talmidei Chachamim? But now we learned in the Mishnah, Kol ba'alei omaniyot omdim mipenehem, v'sholim mishlomam, v'amrim lem echenu anshe makom ploni b'lechem shalom. So what are you talking about? It says, all the ba'alei omaniyot, they have to get up to give them respect to the Talmidei Chachamim, and they have to say hello to them, and they tell them our brothers, right? Anshe makom ploni b'lechem shalom, you've come in peace, and so on and so forth. So what are you talking about now? So Rabbi Yochanan says, Mipenehem omdim, right? Because of the Meviya Bikurim, you get up, but not because of the Talmidei Chachamim, you're not getting up. Which means there's no chiyuv of kima before Talmidei Chacham when there's a bitul melacha, but there's a difference between that and the oseh mitzvah, right? As we're going to explain. So Rabbi Yosef ben Avim bore kama chavya mitzvah b'shata. So look how precious it is a mitzvah in its proper time. Shane mipenehem, because Talmidei Chachamim, they're not going to come. Right, the meaning, the miviyeh bikurim, the ones which are bringing bikurim, we're going to stand up for them, even though we're in the middle of a job. So imagine you're in the middle of the job, you're going to stop and stand up for the people that are bringing the bikurim. Why? Because it's a mitzvah b'sha'ata. But you're not going to get up for Talmidei Chachamim. So says the Gemara, what are you talking about? Dilma shanehata, maybe it's different over there. Din ken, if so, ata machshilan lati lavo. If you're not going to come and you're not going to give them this kavod, maybe they're not going to come and do it next time. And therefore, there was a special institution that you have to stand up for them, right? Even though usually you wouldn't have to, only because you want to give them that like oomph and that enthusiasm and that appreciation that, oh wow, you're doing a mitzvah, you're bringing bikurim, so next time you're also going to come and do it. So therefore, it's not a proof anymore. Okay, fine. So. Right? So basically what happens is that, right? So therefore what we're talking about here is that the pashtut of the sugya is that when there's no bitul melacha, for sure you do have to stand up also for oseh mitzvah, and not only Talmidei Chachamim, but we're talking about only in the case of, right, the Talmidei Chachamim. Fine. Amar Mor says, Yachol ya'amon mipanav mibet hakiseh mibet hamirchatz. So I would have thought to say that maybe you should stand up for Talmidei Chacham also in the bet hakiseh and bet hamirchatz. Right? So he says, Velo. Are you going to tell me no? He says, Yativ b'masruta. Rabbi Chia was sitting in a bet hamirchatz. Rabbi Shimon bar Rabbi, and Rabbi Shimon bar Rabbi went past him. He didn't got up. He didn't get up. And he was actually makpid on him. So he went and he told, right, his father, to Rabbi, right? That's basically 2/5 of the Sefer of Tehillim. I taught him, right? Which means he's my Talmid. And he didn't actually get up, which means it doesn't make sense. Yeah, you should stand up for him. Now, again, we're talking about in the Bet HaMerchatz, right? The two, and furthermore, Bar Kapara, that's the Gemara's asking. And that's why the Gemara is asking. Are you telling me you don't need to? The Gemara says that you do because he was matpid, so it's mashma that you do need to. The two, and furthermore, right? No machloket. He's asking and trying to disprove what we just said. The two, and furthermore, Bar Kapara ve'amri la Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi haviyati be masfuta. It says here there was another story with Rabbi Shmuel Rabbi Yossi, right? Which they were basically sitting in the Bet HaMerchatz. Al ve'azir b'Shimon bar Rabbi v'lo kami kami. He didn't get up. Again, he was makpid. And then he went and he told his father, which is basically 2/9. Shaniti lo Torah Kohanim, right? In Sefer Vayikra. Remember, Torah Kohanim is Vayikra, all the korbanot. That's why it's called Torah Kohanim. Velo amal mipanai, and he didn't stand up in front of me. V'amarlo, he went and he said, Shema bahen yoshev me'areh. He says, you know what? Maybe it was tarud, and therefore you shouldn't be makpid, not because he did it on purpose that he didn't stand up. It's because he was busy thinking about it. And therefore, he didn't realize even that you came in. So ta'amad bahen yoshev u'marer. So it's mashma the Gemara. If the father came and he told him like that, so it's mashma that it was only because he was sitting and being marhead in it. Halavachi, if it's not, so then no. Which means that you see from here that really by you are chayav, right? So he comes and he says, right? Lakashi, that's not a question. Ha bevate gavai, ha bevate barai. He comes and he says, it all depends. He says, when the Braita says you're not supposed to come and stand up for a zaken in the Bet HaMerchatz, we're talking about the inner chambers of the Bet HaMerchatz, which basically that's where everyone is without clothing. And therefore, you don't have to start standing up and making a whole show. Ha bevate barai, but in the outside chambers, where they're still coming and they're still dressed, because basically they used to go to an outside chambers, get undressed, and then go inside of the inside chambers. So he says there, for sure, you have to come and you have to do it. That's also logical. Says Rabbi Yochanan named Yochanan. What was the answer that he said? He went and he told, the father went and he told him, maybe he was thinking and learning. But one second, you cannot think and learning in the Bet HaMerchatz Bet HaKiseh. So therefore, obviously, we were talking about the outside chamber. And the outside chamber, you are allowed to come and think and learning because they're all alone. So therefore, that's why it was going to be permitted. So says the Gemara, Dilma Leon Seshani. Says maybe it was Nenas, which means that sometimes a person is tarud and he's going to be me'ayen with divrei Torah, and he's thinking of divrei Torah, right? And therefore he doesn't even realize. So therefore that which we just said, and we wanted to bring a proof that for sure it had to be in the outside, is not really a proof. Why? Because it could have been the inside. You're not allowed to learn divrei Torah in the inside of the Bet HaMerchatz Bet HaKiseh. So it's honest. And therefore the guy was thinking, learning, and he didn't even pay attention what was going on. Okay? Fine. Says the Gemara. We said in the Braita, maybe you could think that you could close your eyes, you didn't see him. So says the Gemara, then that's why it says, you have to fear your God. So says the Gemara, are we talking about Rishaim? Like, I don't understand. The Pasuk is teaching us that, by the way, there might be a Rasha, he might want to close his eyes and not stand up, and so we're talking about Rishaim. No, maybe he could close his eyes before he comes to the Zman of the Chiyuv, right? Because when he already goes into your Daled Amot, you don't see him anymore. Which means the Chova to stand up only starts when he's within your Daled Amot. So right now you come and you see him coming from far away. Really? Yeah? So if right now you're coming and you're saying this Zaken, that he's from far away, and it's only when it's going to be when he comes into your Daled Amot, fine. So I saw him, he's all the way over there. I come, I put my head, whatever it is, just right? And then all of a sudden, right, he comes and he says, right, 1 second, I close my eyes, I don't see anything. So he comes and he said, no, tamulomar takum viareta. It comes to teach you that we have to actually fear HaKadosh Baruch Hu, which he knows your machshavot, and therefore he knows exactly what you're trying to do in order to exempt yourself from the Mishnah. So the Gemara is going to say, Tana, ezu kima sheyesh bahidur, what exactly is a kima that has hidur? It says 4 amot. Because 4 amot, that's an actual obligation of when it is that you have to actually come and to stand up. Amar Abaye comes and says, Lo amran ela berabo she'enu muvhak. That's only going to be if it's your rabbi, which is not muvhak, which means you didn't learn the majority of your Torah from him. He's a rabbi, he's a Talmid Chacham. Aval b'rabo muvhak. But if you have your rabbi that he's muvhak, the majority of the chumah comes from him, melo enav. Then you have to look from the beginning, right? And that's why I didn't stop purposely, because I already knew the question. You know what's coming, right? So he comes and he says, Abaye, michihava chazi leleudne, dechamra, Rav Yosef dati. So Abaye, when he used to come and he used to see, right, the ear of the chamor of Rav Yosef when he was coming, right, the ear of the chamor, and Rav Yosef was obviously on it. Havakaim, he already used to get up because obviously he was Rabo Muvhak. So from Mamash, he used to see from far. He already used to get up. Okay, Abaye havarachim chamra. Abaye was riding on a chamor. The kamaski aguda de nehar sagya. And when he used to go on the Sfat Anar Sagya, Yativra Meshashi Abraham Mida Geisa, and Meshashi and other Chachamim were on the other side of the river. Velo kamu mikame, so they didn't get up in front of Abaye. Amaleh, so said Abaye, Velavrav Muvhakani. He says, well, I'm not your Rabbi Muvhak. Amrule, they told him, Lava the team. We apologize. We didn't even realize, right, that you were coming because basically we were so involved, right, in our Girsa, so that's why we did not pay attention. How do we know that a zaken should not come and be matriach on the people, right? That they have to start standing up a million times. So Tamulumar zaken viareta. What does that mean? That at the end of the day, that you shouldn't do it. What does that mean? Abaye comes and he says, Naktinan, we have a Kabbalah, Timakif Chaye, which is a zaken, which is going around another way in order not to pass by the tzibur, he will have long life. Meaning that you see that if a zaken is going to purposely go a further route, but just that way not to bother people from standing up, he gets long life. Yarich yamim. Right? It says over here is because since he was mi mekayem mitzvah v'yareta, it says yirat Hashem tosif yamim. So Abaye makif, and Abaye used to do makif Rabbi Zera makif, and Rabbi Zera also used to be makif. So you see from here that it's basically okay. Here it says kishemechaven davka latrech et tzibur leshamdu mipanav. But imon lech kedarako, there's no yisur. So you come, they were doing like midat chasidut. They used to try to go like another way, so that way people wouldn't even need to do that. Right. Ravina. Aviyati kamed Rav Yirmiyah Medifti. So Ravina was sitting in front of Rav Yirmiyah Medifti. Chalafu gavra kameh velo mixeresha. So the first somebody came by and he didn't cover his head. Amari says, "Kama chatzuf gavra." Chatzuf this guy is. Why? Because they used to cover their heads when they used to go in front of an Adam Gadol, right? And by the way, you should know this halacha was even until
because they were.
He comes and he says, "Dilma mi mata mechasya." He says, "No, maybe it comes from mata mechasya. Mata mechasya. There's so many Talmidei Chachamim that kilu they're their friends, so they're not makpidim to go bigilui rosh because kilu, like there's just so many of them." So that's it.
The same class.
Right? No. Chas v'shalom. They're not the same class. It's just that there's so many of them. That means they would have to have their head covered the entire time. So they were mochel, that they didn't need all the time. They were makpidim, that they would come, right, in order to come. Okay? That's something else. But then everyone would have their head covers anyway. Isi ben Yehuda comes and he said, Neseva takum afilu kol seva b'mashma. When it says Neseva takum, it's mashma any seva. So Rabbi Yochanan says, halacha is like Isi ben Yehuda, which means kol seva is mashma. And you have to get up even in front of a zaken hashmai, which means even a zaken rasha, right? You would have to get up. So Rabbi Yochanan Vakani Kameh Sabed Armai. Rabbi Yochanan used to get up even from the zakenim of the elderly of the goyim. I mean, he wasn't even a Jewish elderly people. Even the goyim elderly people. Amari says, Kama yipat ke'adu alayhu dahane. Look how many things pass by their life. And by the way, you should know this is a huge musar scale because you see from here that's the reason why the seva is so important, because it's not only just chokhmah. There is chokhmat chayim, meaning these people through their lives they saw so many things, and you see it. Sometimes you come, you speak to these elderly people. It could be that they never learned Torah in their lives, but they come and they say, you know what? They come and they start telling you things, and you're like, well, obviously, but that's because Baruch Hashem we have Torah. But for them, they did it. So for them, they learned it with the thing. You have to focus on your family, and you have to do this. You have to, have more spirituality, and don't just, neglect everything and this and that, and then all these things. So it's important. Rava mekam lokai, hidur avale. Rava would not stand up to them. He would just do hidur. Okay, he would do hidur. So Abaye yahiv yada lesabe. Abaye would give his hands, right, in order that they should support themselves on him. Rava meshad shluche. Rava should send his shliach to give them the hands, right? But he himself wouldn't do it. Rav Nachman meshader gozai. He used to send his misharatim, right, to give a hand to the elderly people in order to pass them in the street and all these things. Amari love Torah, kama Nachman barabi shuka. He says, if it wasn't the Torah that I learned, right? So what is there then? So how many people would have been like Nachman ben Abba, right, the son of Abai? So basically, he's trying to say in the shuk. So therefore, en chashivuti b'shil atzmi. It's because of the Torah. So therefore, he cannot be mochel on the kvod of Torah. You understand? That's what he's trying to say. He's trying to say, at the end of the day, he's got kvod of Torah. So on him, yeah, he could be mochel. There's no problem. But it's kvod of Torah that he cannot be mochel. So Amar Rabbi Avu, Amar Rabbi Anai, says Rabbi Avu in the name of Rabbi Anai. Lamed Gimel Amud Bet 33b. En tamid chacham rashei la'avor mipnei la'amod mipnei rabo l'shachri v'arvit. So the tamid chacham is not allowed to come and to be over, right? He comes and he says like this, right? He comes and he says, one second. He says like this: the Talmid Chacham is not allowed to go in front of his rabbi only arvit and shachrit, once in the morning, once in the nighttime. Which means like this. This is what I told you, the Rabbi Chida, that he brings on this Gemara. But 1 minute, it's not that simple. Right, so he comes and he says like this. He says, at the end of the day, right, if right now we only come and we show Kvod Shamayim once in the morning, once in the nighttime, that we say Kriyat Shema. So therefore, it cannot be that the kvodo of the rabbi is more than kvod shamayim. So if you come in the morning, you come in the nighttime. So meitvei, but we ask a question: is how could it be? Rabbi Shimon Lazar Memina zaket shlo yatzich. You're going to tell me now it's only shachrit ve'arvi bilvad. Amay lo nitrach. Why are you not going to be nitrach? Chiyuvo, it's a chiyuv, right? Meaning, if you're going to tell me that he's only going on vitr shachrit, so then it's a chiyuv to get up during that time. So what does it mean he shouldn't be matriach? It's a chiyuv. So answers the Gemara, we're talking about the entire day. So therefore, you see from here that you should do it the entire day, and you're going to have to stand up 1,000,000 times throughout the entire day. So answers the Gemara, no. Leolam shachri v'arvid. We're talking about shachri v'arvid. And still, we should try not to come and minimize, right, the entire time of the the tzibur that they have to come and start standing up and doing all these things. Okay. So it's actually, by the way, it says over here, in number 4, lalacha. There's a machlok at the poskim because some people are posek like Rabbi Yanai, right? Which again, Rabbi Yanai was the one that came and he was the one that said that it's only in Arvit v'Shachrit. V'yesh poskim shechayvim lakum bechol pam sheroim et harav, which is the Rosh and the Ran and the Riv and mistimat maran b'shulchan aruch, and it's brought down in the Shach. Ve'en ze merubeh mikvot shamayim, because even in Tfilah, im mitpalel kama pamim b'yom tzarich lamod bechol pam b'ma'avira. So therefore, right, it's not the same. So therefore, again, the stimat of the Shulchan Aruch is that you do have to stand up even 100 times, right? And it's not like what we just said now. So there's again, it comes out of the machlok of the poskim. Amar Rabbi Elazar, says Rabbi Elazar, Kol tamid chacham she'en omen mipnei rabo, any tamid chacham that does not get up because of his rabbi, nikra rasha. He's called a rasha. Eno marich yamim, and he's not going to be marich yamim. V'talmudo mishtakeach, and whatever he learns, he's going to forget. Shneimar, but says in pasuk, v'tov lo yeh larasha. It's good, it's not going to come to the Rasha. He's not going to have long life. Kasel, just like the shade. That he's not God-fearing in front of the God, which means that Rasha, which is not God-fearing, he's not going to have good. Then Tovel Torah, so he's going to forget his learning. He's not going to have long life also. So Mora, en yodea mahu. What is this Mora over here? So he comes and he says as follows. He says, when it says Yareta Meloecha, so therefore it means that he's actually standing up. So he has to stand up. So ve'ima morad ribit morad. He says one second, maybe it's the morad which is written by ribit and by mishkalot, which means that isur ribit it's also written v'yaret meloecha and also by mishkalot. Ribit is interest and mishkalot is the weights, and you're not supposed to have other types of weights. So says Rabbi Lazar, penei gamar. You're learning a gzera shava from penei. Asher enenu yared milifnei ha'elohim, and it says mi penei sevatakum, and therefore. Right? So therefore, it's coming to talk about that if a person is not going to stand up for his rabbi, this is what's going to happen to him. So we're going to ask the following question. What happens if it's his son, but it's his rabbi? So, mahu la'amod, does he have to stand up in front of his father or not? Because at the end of the day, right, it comes out that usually the son has to stand up in front of the father. But it could be that since the son is the rabbi of the father, so therefore the father has to be mechabed the son. So how do you do that? Right? How do you do it? So he comes and he says, Tashema, we're going to try to bring a proof. The Elmaleh Shmuel Rav Yehuda says Shmuel to Rav Yehuda, Shinna, sharp one. Kumi kame avicha. Get up because of your father, which means that Rav Yehuda was the rabbi of his father, Rabbi Yecheskel. Right? So it comes out that he says over here, still, he told me you have to stand up. So I says the Gemara, Shani Rav Yecheskel, it's different Rav Yecheskel, the Bal Maasim Abba, because he was a Bal Maasim Tovim, that he's obligated to get up. Because even Shmuel, there was a muflag b'chokhmah, he used to get up for him because he was a Bal Maasim. So it comes out that the son would also be able to stand up for his father, right? Sorry, that he would also, even though that he's the rabbi of the father, because of this. Elamai kamaleh. So says the Gemara. So then, what was he telling him? Stand up for your father. So haki kamaleh. This is what he told him. Zim dati me'achorai. Sometimes it happens that Yecheskel will come behind him, right? And I don't see him. And still, kumat mikameh, stand up for him. Velo tichushli karadidi, and do not be choshesh for my kavod that you are standing up for Rabbi Yecheskel in my presence. Which means Rabbi Yehuda used to sit in front of Shmuel, his rabbi, and he used to sit face to face. Now, when Rabbi Yecheskel used to come behind, it comes out that his son would not see him. But his son would see him, but Shmuel would not see him, because basically he would come from behind Shmuel. So all of a sudden, what happens is the halacha is that you're not going to give kavod to the talmid b'mkom rav, right? So that means you're not allowed to give kavod to the student in front of the rabbi. So therefore, he comes and he says, so therefore he comes and he says, so therefore he's coming and he's telling him you could stand up and there's not going to be any problem. So now we're going to ask the following question. So we just brought down a heter that the son could stand up for his father, even though the son is the father's rabbi, meaning that he's the rabbi of his father. Now, what about the opposite way now? The son, right, and is the rabbi, but now does the father have to stand up for his son? Because technically speaking, the son is his rabbi. So I'm not fitting to come and to stand in front of my son, but because my son is the chatan of the nasi. The reasoning is I'm not obligated to do it. Why? Because I'm the rabbi of my father, which means that's what it means. Ani kedai, because right, I'm his rabbi. Ha'ihu rabbi, but if he was my rabbi, I would have actually had to stand up. So you see from here that a father is obligated to stand up for his son if he's his rabbi. So answers the Gemara, that's not true. This is what it really means to say. Ani kedai la'amod midem beni, vafilu rabbi da'ana avua. That means even if he would have been the rabbi and everything, still, because I'm his father, but because of the kvod bet nasi, that's why I have to stand up for him for a completely different reason, nothing to do with because he's my rabbi and so on and so forth. So we're going to ask a follow-up question: or no? If a person right now is riding on an animal, is that considered that he's walking? Right? Because at the end of the day, meaning is it considered that he's walking or not? Right? Because if we're going behind him, right, and not after that, so nafkamina is that let's say the rabbi is on the animal, right? So if you're going to tell me that it's like he's walking, so then the talmid has to actually come and get up. But if you're going to tell me that, right, it's not kimealeh, so he doesn't have to stand up in front of him. So Amar Abaye says, Hashema, we're going to try to bring a proof. Tameh, which is a mitzorah, Yoshev tachat ilan, right? Imagine right now he's underneath a tree. The tahor omed, and a person that's tahor is standing underneath the tree. Tameh, right? Or when you're going to have, so what happens? In this case, it's going to be tameh. So one more time. Tameh yoshev, right? Tachat ilan, v'tahor omed tachat ilan. So it's tameh. Okay? So he says, the person, the tahor becomes tameh. Yeah? Tameh omed tachat ilan. But if the tameh is standing, and the tahor is the one that's sitting, right? Tahor yoshev, tahor. He's going to be tahor. Okay? So he says, v'miyashava tameh. Now, if the tameh sat down, hatahor tameh, because now, right, they're both sitting, therefore he's going to be mitameh. V'chen be'even ha'menugat. The same halacha would apply to stone of bet ha'menugat, which is basically with tumat sadat, which is going to be mitameh. Anybody that's with it underneath the same tent. So Nachman bar Kohen says of Nachman bar Kohen, so tomeret rachuv k'me'alech nami. So therefore it comes out that since the evan is in the hands of the human being, and he's carrying it, so therefore, and still we are not saying that it's considered, right, like Tameh Yoshev, but rather the one that's carrying it is standing and he's walking. So it's Ki'ilu considered the Tameh Omed. So it's not going to be Mitameh the Taor. So the same halacha would apply that a person's going to be riding on an animal, that we're not going to go after the person that's sitting down, but rather the animal, and the animal is walking. I mean, even though he's sitting, but the animal is walking. So therefore, we're going after the animal, which the animal is walking, and we're not going after him, which he's sitting. Shema Mina. That's actually where we're going to be paskining. Ibai lehu. Another question. Do you have to stand up because of the Sefer Torah? So Rabbi Simon, Rabbi Lazar, Amri, they both said it's a kavachomer. Right? He says, I don't understand. If the ones that learn the Torah, we're obligated to come, and which are Talmidei Chachamim, that we're obligated to come, and we're obligated to stand up for them. So kol sheken, then you're obligated to stand up for the Sefer Torah itself. Rabbi Eli and Rabbi Yaakov bar Zavdi Aviyatvi. So Rabbi Eli and Rabbi Yaakov bar Zavdi were both sitting, right, and they were being osek in halacha. Chalifa Azin B'Shimon bar Abba. They stand up in front of him. Amar lehu, Rabbi Shimon bar Abba came and he told Rabbi Eli and Rabbi Yaakov bar Zavdi, you guys didn't have to stand up for me. Why? Chada datul chakimai v'ana chaver. He says it's like a tamid chaver. What does that mean? He comes and he says, you guys are chachamim, and I'm like a chaver. So I'm not a chacham like you guys, right? So therefore, like a chaver is less, right, than a chacham. Okay, that's what it is, right? That's the entire concept. A chaver is less than a chacham. Okay, because he says a chaver is a chacham kilu that he wasn't still appointed, and therefore he's like a chaver to the other chachamim, but he's not, it's a lower level, right? Ve'od, and furthermore, does the Torah stand up for the learners? Which means, since you guys are learning Torah, so kiviyachol, you guys are the Torah mamash. So therefore, and I'm not right now learning the Torah right now. So therefore, if you guys are the actual Torah, so you don't have to stand up for me then. So there's two reasons why you didn't have to stand up for me. That's what he comes and he tells me. So says the Gemara, Sabla Rabbi Eliezer, however, Rabbi Shimon bar Abba, he held like Rabbi Elazar. Tamar Rabbi Elazar, and Tamid Chacham Nashal Amumnei Rabo, B'Shas Shosek B'Torah. That means, according to him, he held that when you're learning Torah, right, you're not allowed to actually come and stand up for your rabbi. Why? Because you are the Torah in itself. But Abaye argued on that, and light ale Abaye. Abaye was mekalel, anybody that would do like Rabbi Elazar, right, that he wouldn't stand up for his rabbi, which means mamash. That means Abaye was not just arguing. Mamash light is a klala. Mamash like like the whole tokef. Okay. So then it says, "V'bitu acharei Moshe ad bo'o ha'olah, Rabbi Ami v'Rabbi Yitzchak nafka." So it says like this: when they looked after Moshe, right, until he came to the tent. What does that mean? Rabbi Ami and Rabbi Yitzchak nafka. Chadamar, one of them is lignai, and Chadamar lishvach. The Gemara is going to say mandam lignai, according to the mandam kileita, just like it says over there. What does that mean? It's already brought down that they were saying that ki'ilu they were speaking bad against Moshe Rabbeinu. So since they were coming, they were speaking bad against Moshe Rabbeinu. So therefore, right, look, kama, look how thick he is, and so on and so forth. Look how fat he is. Meaning that they were basically saying that that Moshe Rabbeinu was benefiting from the chambers, from the money of the tzibur, and therefore look how big he is, and so on and so forth. Right? That's according to the mandamar lignai. The mandamar lishvach, and according to the mandamar lishvach. Amar Chizkiah says, Amar Rabbi Chanina Rabbi Yavu, says Rabbi Chanina, the son of Rabbi Yavu. Amar Rabbi Yavu says Rabbi Yavu. Amar Rabbi Dimin Chaifa. Three different types of chachamim are, and there's different halachot. Chacham over. If you have a chacham which is over, so therefore, so imagine you're somebody that's going by, so you have to stand up within the daled amot. Once he passes by, you're allowed to sit down, no problem. Av bedin over, if the av bedin is the one that's passing by, so you have to actually mamash stand up as long as you could still see him. Right? That means you saw him coming, you stand up. But once he passes arba amot, yoshev. Then a see, right, over. So then, so he doesn't. You don't sit down until he sits down. Which means that they weren't allowed to mamash sit until he sat. When he sat down, now they were allowed to sit down. Okay? Fine. 2 dots. It says over here like this. It says, women, right? Men are obligated, and women are going to be pturot. Okay? We learned on the right. What is mitzvot zman grama? That has a fixed time. So he comes and he says, sukkah velulav, shofar vetzitzit. So you have sukkah velulav, shofar and tzitzit. Why? All these things, tefillin, right? All these things are mitzvot zman grama. Ve'ezu mitzvot shelo zman grama. What is mitzvot shelo zman grama? Mezuzah, ma'akeh, aveda, v'shloch ken. Mezuzah, you have to put on the petach bayit. It's all the time. It's not like a certain time, tefillin only during the day, not during the... No. It's all the time, 24/7. Ma'akeh, the same thing. Aveda, right? Hashavat aveda, shiluach haken. So all these things, this is, again, the differences between mitzvot hazman grama and mitzvot shelo hazman grama.